This week, Squatchers Lounge Podcast, giving Trevor Jeff into the realm of the trolls. No, the trolls. That could be a great episode. Tonight, Scandinavia, known for its epic black metal, but also for its little-known cryptid, the Snomannan and Edward Snowden? No, that's not it. Whatever it is, it's gonna be a good talk. And now for the man writing a movie script about a troll dressed as Bigfoot, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Welcome, everybody, to the Squatchers Lounge Podcast. That's right, Season 3, Episode 44. Can you tell me your favorite TV show gives you 44 episodes a season? I surely don't think so. Along for me with the ride.
Law and Order.
Maybe. That's because there's like 9 different ones of them. But with me, as always, is Dr. David Batdorf, pseudo scientist. What's happening, buddy?
Not a whole lot. Ready for this one. This is going to be a good time.
Oh, yes. Snomannan. I love Scandinavian people. I love Scandinavian countries. And we're going to talk about the Scandinavian Bigfoot type lures tonight on the program. But as usual, we're going to start out with a little bit of news. So let's get that set up instead. Yeah, that's it. Gotta love it when stuff doesn't work the way.
And now for the Squatchers Lounge News, bringing you the most up-to-date topics from across the interwebs week after week after week. The Squatchers Lounge Podcast. Let's get newsy.
Let's get newsy. That's right. More dead air than an AM radio station. Anyhow, 12,000-year-old cave lion cubs are finally cleaned up and presented to the world. Now that looks like mummified to me, but isn't it cute?
It's the cutest mummy I've ever seen. I mean, so apparently these lions were weeks old when they were mummified, you know, and this is, I don't know, this is amazing. Look at the amount, the age of these creatures. 12,000 years old. I mean, you know, people were coming across Beringia and these little guys are nearly perfectly preserved. Amazing. So this is
soft tissue and hair. That's the lotto of genetics. I mean, it really is.
Mm-hmm. And like I say, even if the genetics aren't there, there's so much information here that you just don't get from bones. And for a paleoanthropologist or a paleobiologist, this is your wet dream.
Yeah, you don't have to question what it might look like. Damn it, you can look at it and see it for yourself. That is such amazing stuff. So you can check it out at IFLScience.com.
Freeze-dried babies.
Freeze-dried lion babies. Okay, that's right. The NIH is to retire all research chimpanzees. Well, it's about time, my brothers. We have been fighting to free these guys long before Jay and Silent Bob struck back. But since the 70s, honestly, they've been trying to free these poor guys from being tested on. And, you know, it's not just chimps. But damn it, we feel chimps are finally a victory. There's lots more victories to be had for animal testing, but yay, chimps.
I think it's really cool that we've actually gotten to a point where it feels like we should have been there already with all the other, privatized chimpanzee research that's been disbanded. That finally the U.S. government-funded chimpanzees are, you know, they're going to go to their forever home, if you will.
That's right. The last 50 of them are going to be sent to sanctuaries. The agency will also develop a plan for phasing out NIH support for the remaining chimps that are not supported by and not owned by the NIH. That's right. You gotta understand, people, there are still going to be a crap ton of chimps in private research labs that we can't do anything about. But at least we can say it's wrong, and hopefully they'll eventually come about it. But I mean,
I think the general consensus, you know, no matter what walk of life you're coming from, is that this sort of research is it's not okay. Basically, like nobody's okay with this, and even just, you know, breeding chimpanzees in order to test upon them. People are saying that that's not ethical, and let's move on. And we have other means of studying these diseases, so let's do that.
Exactly. All right. Well, there's another Wendigo horror. That's right. February 1972, a story talks about northern Minnesota, and that was the same YouTube video that we talked about in our Wendigo episode. This one comes from phantomsandmonsters.com. The Wendigo just keeps creeping me out. It's like the human with the antler ears. It could be a Bigfoot. It's not really a Bigfoot. It's a shift changer. Ah!
It's a cannibal whose hunger will never be satiated.
Yeah, it's like crazy, crazy stuff. So if you enjoyed the Wendigo episode, go run over to phantomsandmonsters.com and check out the Wendigo horror article. It's actually a pretty decent read.
Indeed.
Notorious B.I.G. foot, bitches. That's right.
It's
Daily
Biggie.
News.
Biggie.
Biggie's back to life. No, actually, it's not East Coast, West Coast. It's actually an outline from the Daily News about Bigfoot. And Adam Davies is in here. God, there's a bunch of people in here. I'm sorry. I'm just having a brain fart with people's names at the moment. But it's a really long article that was put up by the Daily News. As much as they suck up and make Bigfoot look ridiculous. There's Lauren Coleman. Sorry, I couldn't remember your name off the top of my head there, pal. There is a such thing as monsters. They're really, you go on. It's like going through the Squatcher Lounge podcast episodes. We have done every single one of these topics that the Daily Mail has gone through. Yay to us.
Yeah, I do love the recaps, though, and look at how people try to present sort of things. And as per usual with everything these days and Daily News and everything else, it's the more you simplify a whole, like you try to look at an entire thing, you simplify it to a point where it's just incorrect.
I'm not saying that the scientific community should recognize the existence of a Sasquatch, but that the scientific community, if it's true to the principles of scientific exploration, should at least engage. Yeah, well, you've engaged, sir. Quite a bit you've engaged.
Science spacecraft engage. Yeah.
Portals! Oh, I'm sorry. I had a portal attack there for a moment.
Well, it's easier to engage via portal.
That's right, but I can tell you where I can evacuate through a portal, too. Check it out, interactive.dailynews.com. There's links all over Facebook. You can check it out, I'm sure. You'll find one. Okay, this graphic shows the size of the Rosetta's Comet. What the hell? That's L.A., bro.
Yeah, so the whole purpose of this, like, for me being like a science mind explosion, like I love anytime something can just make me go, wow. Okay,
Bang.
so the impact that they're trying to show on this, the flat side that's down is about 2 kilometers across, so less than 2 miles. It's something you could easily walk across in a couple hours. But if you think about the actual mass of the entirety of the comet, it's 2 kilometers across, that's not a big deal. But if you actually see that in reference to a fairly large city, like, to be fair, this isn't LA, but it's a large city, and you realize that when that impacts and it's going faster than anything that you could possibly imagine, and it continues to drive itself into the earth, why the dinosaurs had a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, well, it can cause the wobble. Okay, it literally caused the Earth's eternal wobble into this crap hole of a rotation that we have now.
Yeah. So it's awesome to put those sort of things into perspective. Where like 2 kilometers. I mean, I could run that, and I'm out of shape, right? So
yeah. Well, the size of a Volkswagen Bug can knock us off our axis.
Yeah. So this is something that's incredible. It's scary. It's fun, but it's fun to look at. Like okay, that actually gives me some scale. It's not just a picture out in space. It could be the size of the Earth. It could be the size of a pea. Nope. This gives me some perspective, and I love perspective.
Don't worry. Optimus Prime will save us. Okay. Mysterious Denisovian that I can never say. I always want to put an I there, and there isn't one. Denisovan. Humans were more genetically diverse than the Neanderthals. Yeah, I can say that word. As a species, the ancient humans known as the Denisovans are an enigma. Known only from the few fragments of bone discovered in 2008, no entire fossil remains of them exist. We know that they lived at least around 50,000 years ago, so we don't know shit, and that they interacted with modern humans and Neanderthals. But the new
Yes.
discovery of more Denisovian remains, a single molar tooth, is shedding some more light on the peoples. That's right.
Yeah.
So we got a new molar.
So the just put this into perspective. It was the actual, if you think of the end of your pinky finger, the last joint that just falls underneath your pinky nail, that was the fossil bone that they extracted enough DNA to say, hey, we got something that's new, it's novel, it's not human, it's not Neanderthal. And so this is the study that's going on with the other pieces that are different and from different individuals, that are giving us a little bit of more of a view into the diversity of these peoples, and it's insane. So if anybody really wants to follow the genealogy, if you will, if we all had let's just call Homo heidelbergensis as maybe correct or incorrect in the long run. Homo heidelbergensis was our last common ancestor.
That's our great-great-grandpappy.
Yeah, when Neanderthal, Denisovan, and modern human were all the same thing. That's what they were, is what this is kind of boiling down to, yada, yada, yada. So Denisovan, they went one direction and Neanderthal went another direction, but they were the same thing. They split from us, that were the antecessor and all sorts of other things, leading up to modern humans. And they went their own direction and became these two other distinct things. What they're saying is that the Denisovans had a much more genetically diverse genome, which means that they were probably that Neanderthal was the offshoot. They were the one-off. They were the guys that got stuck up there in Europe, right?
In
Europe, and the Denisovan was the one that was the population that probably was the most like, quote unquote, heidelbergensis, the older population, and was probably wider spread and more prolific than Neanderthal. And that's a fascinating thing. The more information you sort of I'm guessing at a lot of these things, and I'm sure other people are too, but that's where these articles come from like IFL Science and whatnot. But it's fantastic stuff, and it really seals up a lot of loose ends. The more finds that we can get DNA out of seals up the differences between all, because like Jeff and I say all the time, it's not what makes us the same. We are very much the same.
Yes.
All Neanderthal, Denisovan, and modern human, but it's the differences that are important so that we can identify
the lineage.
So that we can understand how each one of us came about, and that's really the important. That's the question.
Kind of like an alien dropping down here onto our planet and looking at a bulldog and just going, "Oh, bulldog." Yeah, but there was a lot of freaking breeds that went into making that bulldog. And the English bulldog that we have now isn't even the animal that they bred in the 1700s. It's a bastardized version of remains of horrible breeding through the years. But my point is now we're looking at taking the DNA from that bulldog and figuring out where those pieces and parts came from, and that's what we're doing on these ends of the human scale.
Yeah, so it's very, very interesting and very very fascinating, and I would love someday for these guys to pull out a reasonable fossil and show us a little bit more of what the differentiation between Neanderthal and Denisovan would be. Yeah.
Eventually, there will be some cave that'll be discovered that'll end up with an entire skeleton in it, and hallelujah, that'll have some other unknown hominid mixed in with it.
Yeah. So this talks a lot about this, and it talks about them living in the high Tibetan Plateau. Also, the Altai Mountains are very high. And the next link, I think, also even goes into that even more so, and talks about how the genes that we inherited, not meaning we as in me, of Caucasian and European descent, like the people who have the ability to live at high altitudes, or our ability to live at high altitudes, was given to us, or was
come from the Denisovians.
Well, not even that came from the Denisovians, but that's something that they share with us. It might have come from our predecessor, because we have that and they have that too. So it could have been a common denominator.
That's what the article is actually saying. In Tibetan adaptation to live high in the altitudes where this little oxygen in the air has been shown to come from the Denisovans, said the study co-author Savante Pablo.
Svante Pabo, he's my man. He's the one who's decoded the Neanderthal genome, and he's working on these guys too. He's the Max Planck Institute is doing some awesome work, and
super pimp.
More to come because
That's
and
right.
this is exciting. And no, it's still not Bigfoot, but it does give us more information to back. The more we back up and the more we weed out these other things, the less options we have for Bigfoot. So
There we
next, work on the different Homo erectus, work on Homo naledi. Like, how can we back that out and see if it has to go back farther than that? And that's the weeding out process. That's science and pseudoscience.
And we may still come across the Bigfoot root in any of those lineages. All right. So, Scientific American long-sought biological compass has finally been discovered. Like cows line themselves north to south. Why do they do that? We never know. We just know that they do. So if you're lost and you see a field of cows, they don't all align perfectly north, but in a herd of cows, they're mostly standing north to south. You can pretty much figure it out. But why?
So what this is, I mean, I think they reference a fruit fly or something like that, but they're actually they've discovered what is the biological reason? What is the biological compass why birds fly north and south? Why do the caribou know to go this direction and that direction? How do elephants know when there's no landmarks which way to go? And it turns out that there's potentially there's a particular protein that they've decided is actually sensitive to magnetism that a lot of creatures have. We may even have, once you discern this protein, they can actually look and say, okay, well, how
that would be so wrong. The human would not want that. Oh my goodness, no.
Yeah, how can a lot of times, you can tell, is it always landmarks? You can kind of tell which way is north or which way is south.
The sun usually gives that away, but she says that he has found a protein in fruit flies that both binds to iron and interacts with cry, known as CG8198. It binds iron and sulfur atoms and is involved in fruit fly. God, my dyslexia is really getting me on that one. It doesn't matter. They're rhythms. Together with cry, it forms a nanoscale needle, a rod-like core of CG8198 polymers with an outer layer of cry proteins that twists around the core. So it's like, where does it do this? I don't know. It's an electron microscope, so it's got to be really freaking small in a fruit fly.
Yeah. We're talking about like a nano compass. We're talking, but what's phenomenal and what a lot of people don't understand is that most proteins that your DNA tells the available aminos in your body how to combine as proteins. When they combine as proteins, they're essentially creating it's creating a machine. It's creating a nano machine. We're trying to create these nano machines, and your body does this on a regular basis, and through your growth and then dilapidation later in life, this what's happening, and it's amazing. And this is just another form of us kind of understanding some of the other aspects of it. And not everybody's going to be genetically encoded. Everybody meaning everybody in the animal kingdom, right? Not every animal is going to have this protein building block, but it's fascinating to actually understand why the F does a swan know how to fly south because it's getting cold. Well, how does it know which way that is? How can you fly away from the cold? So
right.
That's
kind of hits.
Yeah. Oh, I'm cold. I should fly south. Well, I obviously know where south is, so I may have a similar protein that's telling me where south is, or adversely where north is, and get away from there.
Check this one out on scientificamerican.com. This is a really interesting article. Finally up tonight, actually not finally up tonight, Crappy Little Dreams, The Adventures of Craig Flippy has finally been funded.
Woo!
Hey, Craig, dude, this guy is an awesome guy. $7,000 is a lot of money to me, but so far, gear, travel, campaign rewards, and fees take a huge bite out of that $7,000 already. So going over budget helps him out. If you still want to contribute, you can find his GoFundMe campaign and contribute to it. But congratulations to the Flipster and the mini Flipster and the white Flipster. Crappy Little Dreams is going to get made. Look at that moped. How could you not want to fund that happy little moped?
Yeah, I need to see what happens on the happy little moped.
Exactly. really. I mean, stuff like this is going to happen on that little moped. I promise. It's going to be amazing. So congratulations, Craig. We're looking forward to your adventure, my friend. Okay, our ISU professor, Dr. Don Jeffrey Meldrum. He's really disappointed in History Channel's Bigfoot captured. This is on the IdahoStateJournal.com website. They must have come over for an interview the day after it. Going, did you see it? How horrible was it? Where's the DNA? How about those hair samples? Well, as he stated on Facebook, he's been inundated with calls and emails and contacts about the Bigfoot captured from the History Channel. And if you check out our channel, there's a Bigfoot captured special there, and we mentioned it last week as well. It was a total fabrication of what-if scenario, but we knew, even though they put it in the show several times that this was a dramatization and a what-if scenario, it didn't matter because people caught it in the middle of it and still thought it was real because people are Gump plus 10 IQ points. Yeah. I don't know. So...
I'm sorry, just the one scene you showed me, and this is no.
It was awesome if it would have been a Bigfoot movie, which, by the way, if anybody has a digital copy of that like I do, if you rip out all the crud and just put the Bigfoot captured movie together, it's actually fun to watch. Holy crap. But putting that aside, who wants all that other scientific garbage in with it? They should have made 2-hour-long programs, played them back to back, and it probably would have come off a whole lot better. But unfortunately, he lent his credibility to his show, who screwed him in the end once again. What do you do at that point? I don't know, Dr. Meldrum, but, screw me once, shame on you. Screw me a dozen times, shame on me.
I like in this article, he says, I don't know, what I find amusing to me is how many people contacted me asking me if the Bigfoot in the cage was real. No, really? That was the scene that I watched, and it didn't take me but 0 seconds to realize that the shots and the lighting, I mean, they had stage lighting. I mean,
right.
Not a handycam shot, even though the actors did their best. It was definitely shot professionally with lights, and the Bigfoot was definitely a dude in a suit.
Exactly. And you can check that out at IdahoStateJournal.com. Finally, tonight, we got to ask Dr. Meldrum Ketchum, what is in your head? Well, apparently, Bigfoot Decoded, the science behind the legend. She's going to put her own documentary together because no one's telling the truth. I saw this like a week ago, and I didn't mention it because I thought it was going to fall flat on its face. And as you can tell, she's asking for another $95,000 from the public. What in the world does this woman go through? How does she go through that much money? I don't. I just don't know.
$95,000.
Professional documentary companies spend $25,000 maybe on a reality show that lasts weeks.
So even think if everything was in the can, just the editing, post-production, and distribution. I mean, 95. Maybe, but probably not. So
what do? Well, you get people like us to tell you the long and the short of it. So here's the deal. She is literally, for $1,500, offering 2-night guided Sasquatch adventure for a chance to experience the Sasquatch people. Plus, you get all the $550 rewards, too. Okay, so David and I were talking pre-show, and we're gonna put this up for you guys. Now, it's actually going to cost more than the $1,500 because we would actually have to fly in and provide transportation and that type of thing. They don't pay for any of that. They just, once you get there, they'll take you on a 2-night guided tour. But she is, let me bring up this other graphic since we're talking about this, because I'm not making any of this up. She's making guarantees that
you can't make this up.
Cannot put up, and I'm going to bring this other message up because this was the guarantee. I put Bigfoot Decoded page up because there were a lot of commitments to help fund it. So far, we've only got a small percentage of it covered. Everybody's excited about the documentary, so am I. But we have to get it funded first, and we need to really get that going and make it happen. There's 3,200 people on this Facebook page, so let's get busy. For larger donations, I'm offering exclusive one-on-one expedition to have an experience with the Sasquatch people. She's guaranteeing that you're going to have an experience. Now, we'll go back to the other page and show you that that's not what they're guaranteeing in their GoFundMe campaign.
But they're I'm sorry, 3,200 people to raise $95,000. I mean, really, let's think about this for just a second. I mean, every single person on that Facebook page has got to give more than $300. That's insane.
At $1,500, at the $1,500 mark over here on the GoFundMe campaign, there isn't one. Okay? If you notice, GoFundMe doesn't allow you to do that type of thing. But it's in the print over here. At $1,500, a Sasquatch 2-night guided adventure for a chance to experience the Sasquatch people. If you follow her, she's guaranteeing those interactions. So David and I
plus the $550 reward.
Right. So David and I say, screw it. Send us. We want to go and have a Melba Sasquatch experience. We would like to donate a $1,500 donation to the Bigfoot Decoded, but we're not paying for it. I'm not giving them any of my money. So I'm not really saying we don't have anything set up. But if you guys would think it would be a good idea for David and I to go visit Melba's super secret Bigfoot guru and have a Bigfoot experience for ourselves and come back and give the world a real review of what happened, let us know, because we can set up a GoFundMe campaign and make it happen. We really would. But we're going to put it out to our fans. If you guys would like to see us go, let us know in the comments on Facebook. Make the comments out there. Hashtag whatever. I don't know. We'll have to figure out a hashtag for it at the moment.
I'd just like to remind you all that you can set up a GoFundMe for anything, but a Kickstarter actually has to have a product at the end of it.
That's right. See, and that's the other Kickstarter.
Where GoFundMe is not.
She's going to get that money.
Yeah, she's going to get the money, and she doesn't actually have to deliver any sort of product. Where in Kickstarter there are rules, which is why I never donate to a GoFundMe project unless you just want to give somebody money to give them money.
Like Flippy was on GoFundMe. Hey, I'll give Flippy money, but I'm not giving Melba money. So once she reaches a certain percentage of that, they're going to give her that money because they get 5% of it. It's beneficial to GoFundMe to give her the money because they get to keep part of it. That's how that whole shebang scam thing works. Whatever. But David and I are willing to make the arrangements to go on this Melba expedition if our fans want to see us go and do this. So put it in the comments, send us a message, and we'll make it happen because somebody's got to put an end to this crap.
But that's not going to do it. That's the problem. Everybody, like somebody is still going to, we could go there, debunk the entire thing, call it what it is, and there's still going to be 3,300 people on that Facebook like page that are totally on board and think that we're making things up.
Well, yeah, God bless our haters. Mary, we love you for being a hater. It's okay. Watch the show. If it makes you feel better to leave those nasty comments, it's all right. It really is. We're used to it by now. But seriously, how do people keep following this project blindly? There's no announcement to the world. Go and look on the internet and find anywhere besides a Melba specifically owned page where it says Bigfoot exists and we have the DNA.
And then you get the actual paper. When you actually see the paper and you actually see what came out, even if you paid the money or if you got it signed through other means, you read the paper and it reads
like a cartoon strip.
there's more information or the same information or information that was referenced in the study on Dr. Meldrum's ISU page for his, the relic hominid inquiry, right? So, which is actually referenced, I think, more than once. So there really isn't anything new or exciting going on here, and the genome was denied.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anywhere. No one is looking this stuff up.
Well, when they're talking about how it wasn't accepted into this and wasn't accepted into that, I don't like, honestly, my personal opinion, I don't think there ever was any information. And if there was, it was just a bunch of stuff that was shot out for no reason, and there was never going to be any substance to it whatsoever. And it was given to some people who tried to help, and they made their extrapolations, and that became the paper. And none of those people were qualified to do what they were doing, and they couldn't verify the data. They just ran statistics, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I've bounced pieces of this genome off of the thing and come back with panda bear, celery, and lemur with black bear. And so we can't help but lead the blind to water, but we can't make the blind drink. But we can at least stay on top of it. All right, that's enough of the Melba crap. We're going to go ahead and get this bad taste out of our mouth, and we're going to get on to the nice topic, the Snowmannen.
Edward Snowden?
No, not Edward Snowden.
Oh.
And now for tonight's topic.
I have to completely redo all my research then.
The Snomannan is the Scandinavian Bigfoot. Is there a Scandinavian Bigfoot? The legends about trolls might indicate a long history of sightings. There has been a small number of reports from Sweden, Norway, of a type of wild man. The Snomannan, or Bigfoot, purportedly inhabits northern Scandinavia and Lapland and the Arctic regions of Norway, Sweden, and Finland. That's right. It is described as a dark ape-like creature covered in thick, dirty, stinky hair. The face is broad with permanent brow ridges, nose pressed flat with a mouth that juts out from a huge jaw. Sound familiar?
Could be familiar. Could be, the neighbor. I don't know.
That's right. Well, David usually goes through and shows us exactly where these people are. So let's take a look at Google Earth. Where are we talking about here tonight? Scandinavia.
Scandinavia. So here we have the very tip top of the hat. It's like that thing on the baseball cap that you always hit on your head, and it hurts like a son of a bitch.
Yeah, that beanie
being
thing.
right about, yeah, the little beanie thing right about here. So, here you have the U.S.-Canadian border, some nice lush land, and if you circle around and you come around, oh, look at that, we're in Siberia, Russia, and, coming down through here. Oh, look, there's that, wait, right about here, equal distance. Hey, here's that Altai region where we find those Denisovan folk. Oh,
isn't that kind of interesting? The more we look at this kind of stuff, the more sense it actually starts to make.
Yeah, and we were talking about the the Almas actually comes from the Almasti actually comes from this region and not over here where some cryptozoologists tell you it would. Yeah, and then you keep coming around and around and around, and look, there's southern Sweden.
Sweden. We love Sweden.
Yes,
Sweden but our friends.
But they're talking about the Snomannan, but these Arctic regions, which basically come right through here in this whole coniferous green belt that goes, from the Yukon and Maine through, the Central Territories and Canada and BC. We'll include Alaska and Siberia and all the way back through here, and we
kind of runs right into the middle of it. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So
it kind of does. And here's Sweden, Finland, Norway, and all the like right out in here, which is an incredibly green area. And
it's also a place that never cut down all of its trees.
In the Arctic region. However, if you come back down into some of these, like Finland in the lower regions, and you see that it's mostly been farmed, and there's all it's grassland. It looks like the low-lying areas, in Washington or the eastern Washington area, not so much desert.
Finland's about the size of Florida. It's not a very large country. Sweden, again, is probably about the size of Florida, maybe a little bit bigger.
But when let's see if we come over here and do a little this and a little this, and you look at this area, is a very large area, most of which up around this belt here is completely uninhabited.
Exactly.
Much like this area right here. Actually, if we come here and zoom out, they look a lot alike. You can see the lush green ring of coniferous forest, or what used to be coniferous forest, and these areas are very much, in tune with that. And then you see this northern taiga that kind of goes into the tundra, which is the less forested area right before the polar ice cap. That, of course, isn't here, because if you did, it just wouldn't look like much if it wasn't there. And maybe we got to get used to that. Sorry, hippie. Anyway, but you come back to here, and this is a really great area. There's a lot of biodiversity. There's a lot of interesting creatures. I want to say, well, it's reindeer here. There's something else on our continent. Caribou on our continent, reindeer here. You have brown bears. In the sea, you have you have orcas, you have belugas, you have all sorts of other things. There's a rich environment that's a lot like our northern. I'd say more like Canada than the lower United States, but a very fantastic area and interesting from that aspect. However, their stories are a lot different.
Right. Well, that was one of the things I was just going to actually go into. There's a couple of stories that actually come out of the cryptozoology. Cryptozoo, I can't that URL is all screwed up. Anyhow, the following report comes from the website. It says that this report was from the northern area of Stockholm. There's a lot of pine woods in that area, which sounds familiar. In the summer of 1985, a Swedish radio reporter talked about strange growls being heard in the province of Hälsingland. Two elderly moose hunters described how they had been tracking something big and smelly and finally realized released their dogs to give chase. The dogs came back with their tails between their legs and were terrified, said Carl Johansson from Bollnäs. I have to study up on this. Anyhow, a couple of months before this, a woman who remains anonymous went out in a recreation area of Vaxna to clean the family cabin ready for the summer holiday. She suddenly heard what she described as pretty heavy feet moving around outside. She sensed that this was not an ordinary intruder and actually hid under a bed. I never saw the creature, but 1 hour later had passed. I got up and I went outside and I found giant footprints in the garden and around the house. I mean, these sound just like Bigfoot tales. She said that the footprints measured 45 centimeters in length and that they were 30 centimeters wide, twice as long, half as wide. Look, 2/3 wide as they are long, just like the type of dimensions that they talk about with the Bigfoot. Following this, a couple of weeks later, two teenage girls were skinny dipping in a nearby pond when they suddenly heard someone or something moving about in the thick undergrowth nearby, teasing and calling the intruder a pervert who spied on new girls. They moved closer and closer towards the shore, planning to surprise or even catch the culprit. Instead, something right out of a nightmare suddenly rose up in front of them. Tina, 15, told John it resembled an ape, but it was uglier and very large. Her friend Bertra, 16, agreed and said that is the same time a terrible stench came from the creature. So, these stories sound just like Bigfoot stories that we hear coming out of America.
Absolutely, and they don't call them the Bigfoot. There's a 1,000 names, different dialects, different stories, different heritages, but basically all of it boils down to the overarching thing is trolls. Now, what is a troll? Right? We think of the modern term for this, that, and the other, but basically they're, it's this kind of large, lumbering, slow, and they describe them as stupid. Now, how allegory works the same in Native American culture as it works in Scandinavian culture, if you go back far enough, to where, okay, so these things aren't maybe as smart as we are in the way that we consider ourselves smart. So they're stupid, they're slow, but they're large and they're hairy and they're ugly. And that's the basic description of these creatures. I've always offered, like, the troll story is the Sasquatch story in Scandinavia. So why? Like, Scandinavia seems impassable to North America. You can go for that, Atlantic land bridge theory, if you will. And there's a lot of potentials for that, right? But to have that story show up on both sides of the coast, and then you show the genealogy of how lineages
man has literally moved between here and there.
Yeah, and you're like, that's not possible. This has got to be either the longest standing story, or there's a biological aspect to this that kept this story coming back up. So that's a very, very fascinating thing for me.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, too, that it isn't just crazy Americans with these stories. It isn't just crazy nut-job Pacific Northwestern hippies that take too many shrooms and go out to the woods. These are people that we don't know. These are kids from another country. Why would they make up Bigfoot stories coming out of places like Sweden, coming out of places like Finland? It makes absolutely no sense, but it does show to say that they have the same type of environments, the same type of altitudes, the same type of food sources in those ranges as what we have in ours. Is it possible that a different species of upright walking primate has diversified in the strong, high conifers across the world?
Yeah. It seems like if one would live in one place, it would almost have to live in the other places. And when you see it in, every place along the way, leads, you have to ask the question: is it a biological thing, or is it is it a cultural thing? And that's the question that I need to answer the most for myself, and that's why you have to look for the biological thing, because the cultural thing just won't present itself. I can't jet set all over the world, but I can go into the woods behind my house.
Right. Right.
But
we don't hear stories of places like we don't expect. We don't hear stories out of the Middle East about Bigfoot. We don't hear stories about, Sandy Africa.
Or we do, when we do from the Middle East or like Turkey, it's off the mountain ranges that abut, the same areas that we're talking about.
We're talking about the edge of the skirts of these areas, but they're not the desert. So we're not saying that desert countries don't have Sasquatch in them, because they have areas that aren't just a desert. I don't know that there is any one particular country that is just desert, but that's not the point. What we're talking about here is, if, just like David said, if you expect it to be in one location, you should be able to look at another part of the world and find suggestions for the same type of a creature living there as well.
So one of my favorite studies, and it doesn't delve into this, but it gets my mind going in the same direction, is the fact that I'm very, very familiar with the Salish stories of Sasquatch, if you will, or whatever they call them, depending on which tribe it was, and the story, there's always a child stealing story, or there's always a nefarious story, a bad, it's the evil character in that story, or there's something to be afraid of in that story. And there's always a positive story. Like, Tsunikwa had a very positive air about her. You were lucky to have spotted this creature. There's actually so much so that the Sonokwa, like the pursed lips and arms up, statue that you see all over the place, and people would call that Sasquatch. That was actually placed out. If you owed a debt to the chief of your tribe, that was placed outside, because it was not meant to intimidate you. It was meant to remind you of your debt, but also to bring you luck, because it was lucky to see these sort of creatures. And there was a positive.
I wish you luck so you make lots of money so you can pay me back.
And there was the positive spiritual aspect of it, and like the happy trolls thing. I mean, in Finland they have festivals for the trolls, and it's a very positive thing, and it's meant to bring good luck and good fortune and all these other things. But also, there's all these stories of the slow, dumb, child-eating monster. So it goes back and forth. But to find those correlations, legitimately a world away. I mean, those are the fascinating questions to me, and why I love looking at this Scandinavian troll, Scandinavian Bigfoot, this Scandinavian snowman, and looking at it in reference to the world and how that all sort of ties in and makes sense, and that's the part that blows my mind and why I need answers.
Exactly. Well, let's finish it up with one last story. Another sighting took place just south of Bollnäs, Sweden. Miss Gustafsson and her husband not only saw the Swedish Bigfoot, but also heard it several times and even claimed that they found its droppings. It came quite close to our cabin and would kind of howl in the moonlight with a voice that reminded us of a human with bass. Very, very deep. We saw it more like a silhouette against the sky, and it never came so close so we could identify it properly. Miss Gustafsson said, it was huge, powerful, and gave the impression of being primitive, but so intelligent. She also claimed it had a whistling sound, and at times they would hear what was either an echo or another Bigfoot answering the call. When Ms. Gustafsson investigated the area in daylight, he found the classical large footprints and also fresh droppings. Its droppings reminded me of human, except at first I thought that it was, but they were left in such places as a human would never go, and I always found it in the area where he had last seen the creature. That's,
Wow.
Exactly.
So, I really, that could be a classic case of misidentification for the black metal enthusiast. Poop.
That's right.
I mean, really, because what's more metal than pooping in a field? But those are the kinds of stories that we hear all the time over here, minus the corpse paint and epic metal.
Right.
But yeah, it's fantastic to see those sort of things. I was looking at some of the stuff that you sent me, Jeff, and some of those are contemporary. I mean, 2009, 2011. Very, very fantastic to see those sort of things. And,
we're not the only creepy, crazy people in the woods trying to find Bigfoot.
Maybe we should wear more corpse paint.
Maybe so. I don't know. Well, that's going to actually wrap it up for this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast, everybody. I got to tell you, I like the Snomannan. I want to go to Finland and look for the Finland, Sweden, any of the Scandinavian countries. Get a hold of me. I'll be happy to come over and visit, and we can go look for the Snomannan together. What do you think, David?
I would. Stockholm is on my my bucket list, so that's got to happen anyway.
We still got to get around to getting some passports to both of us. All right. Well, that's going to take care of it.
I can't even go to Canada, and it's 20 minutes away.
Blame Canada. All right. It's going to wrap it up for Season 3, Episode 44 for the Dr. David Batdorf Pseudoscientist. I'm your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. We say thanks for listening, and may the Squatch be with you.
Epic metal.
Next week, Tuesday edition. Black Friday bitches. That's the other thing. What they need to know.